Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 19th April 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 8 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first article. Title says give option to states, boost vaccine supply. So this is important statement which is given by our former Prime Minister, that is Manmohan Singh ji. So this article mainly talking about vaccine supply. So why we need to improve this vaccine supply or why we need to increase this vaccine production. So now today's newspaper mainly said that there are more than 2.7 lakh cases they are reported. So these are 2.7 lakh new infections or new cases that are recorded within 24 hours. So in this second wave, there is many highest number of cases they are recording day by day. So because of number of cases are increasing, now we need to increase our vaccine supply and we need to increase our vaccine distribution. We need to increase our vaccine production first of all, mainly to prevent this transmission of this coronavirus, right? So because of this article mainly talking about to boost vaccine supply. So this article will be important regarding health, which comes under GS paper 2. So now let us talk about this article in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that, so our former Prime Minister, he wrote to our Prime Minister now, okay. So he mainly included some message like, so he offered some suggestions on fighting against the second wave of COVID-19. So first important one is we need to ramp up or increase this vaccination efforts. So under this vaccination, we can talk about there is need to increase vaccine supply. And second one is we need to increase vaccination production. So how can we increase this vaccine production? So if you're talking about vaccine candidates, that is COVID-19 vaccine candidates, which got this emergency use authorization in India, there are only 2 vaccine candidates. So as we all know, they are Covishield and next one is Covaxin. Okay, so this Covishield, it is based on Serum Institute of India and Covax, it is based on Bharat Biotech, India. Okay, so here these 2 companies, they are producing this or manufacturing this Covaxin and Covishield, right? So what happened whenever we are increasing our manufacturing of this vaccine, then we can increase our vaccine supply. Because recent report mainly says that some states are facing this vaccine supply. So because of this, daily vaccination has decreased in number of states. So mainly to overcome this problem, one important suggestion which is given by our former Prime Minister is we need to go for compulsory licensing. Okay, whenever we are going for compulsory licensing, and in that some other pharmaceutical companies, they will also go for production of this vaccine such that it will meet the demand of vaccines in market. Okay, so this is the thing here. So now let us talk about vaccine. What is this compulsory licensing? Compulsory licensing means it is a type of licensing or authorization which is issued by the government to an applicant for making, but as well as using and also for selling of this patent products or employing a patent process without consent of patentee. So under this compulsory license, if you see, if any person who got patent regarding this vaccine, so now it is national emergency, right? So in this situation, this license will be given to other companies to go for manufacturing of these vaccines such that it will meet demand. Okay, so if you're talking about this compulsory licensing that is present in Indian Patents Act. So regarding patents, we have Indian Patents Act of 1970. So under this chapter 16 of this act mainly talks about this compulsory licensing, and not only that, even agreement on trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. So these are 2 important things which talks about this compulsory licensing and in which conditions we can go for issuing of this compulsory licensing. So this part will be also important regarding prelims and also even mains. So on which conditions? First one is when there is a reasonable requirement of the public with respect to patent invention had not satisfied. That means whenever this patent invention is not satisfied mainly by public, so in that condition we can go for this compulsory licensing. And next one is whenever this patent invention it is not available to public at reasonably affordable price. For example, if we have one drug which is costing about 8,000 rupees, but this is not affordable by many poor people. For example, there is one cancer drug. So the branded drug cost is more than 8,000 rupees. So because of this, government came with compulsory licensing. So under this compulsory licensing, generic drug mainly prepared and it is very low cost compared to that of this 8,000 rupees. So whenever if there is any patent invention, so it is not available for general public for affordable prices. So in that condition, government can go for this compulsory licensing. And next one is whenever this patented invention is not used in India. So in this condition also we can go for compulsory licensing. So along with this, section 92 of Patent Act also says that compulsory licensing can be issued suo motu by controller of patents whenever there is national emergency or extreme urgency and it is very useful for public but not for commercial use. So in this condition also we can issue this compulsory licensing. So this is about this topic. I hope it is clear. And now let us see next topic. Title says bat with sticky disc found in Meghalaya. So this article is very important regarding environment and ecology, which comes under GS paper 3. And this topic is very much important regarding prelims point of view. So why this article is important? Earlier this bat with sticky disc mainly seen in Non-Kilam Wildlife Sanctuary which is located in Myanmar. Now for first time we can see this bat with sticky disc also seen in India in Meghalaya. Okay. So this article is important and you can expect question like, so Eudycospus denticulus is seen recently in news. So what it is related to? So in this way you can expect simple framing question in UPSC regarding this any species which is seen in news. Okay. So now let's talk about this article in a great detail. So this article mainly talking about a bat. So name of that bat is Eudycospus denticulus. Okay. So if you're talking about context, so Meghalaya has yielded India's first bamboo dwelling bat with a sticky disc. That means these bats mainly seen in this bamboo. Okay. And as well as they are having one important unique feature that is sticky disc. So what is use of this sticky disc we are going to discuss. Okay. Don't worry about that. So now let us see some details which are given in this article. So first and foremost thing here is disc-footed bat was recorded in northeastern states. Earlier it was found in Non-Kilam Wildlife Sanctuary which is located in Myanmar. And next one is Geological Survey of India and as well as some few European natural history museums. They stumbled upon this very specialized small bat with disc bats and as well as it have bright orange coloration. So it is very attractive to see also. If you see in image you can see the body of this bat, it is very bright in color with orange and it also have some specialized disc also present. Okay. And if you are talking about this species, there are some couple of other bamboo dwelling bats they are seen in India. But these bats now they discovered they are adapted to environment, that is adapted to this bamboo habitat. So because of this species is very special because it has some disc. Okay. And next one is newly recorded species. They are presumed to be bamboo dwelling species. Okay. So for example, because of some important features or morphological features of this bat, like we can say flattened skill is present and they also have adhesive pads. They help mainly to identify this species. Earlier this species was found in southern China and as well as Vietnam, Thailand and as well as Myanmar here. So what is significance of this discovery? So first one is because of this flatted head, flatted skull and as well as some sticky pads which are present. So they enable this bat to root inside this cramped spaces. So whenever there is any small spaces in this bamboo, so it can go and it can reside in this small cramped spaces. And next one is it is having some smooth pads. So how it is helpful? So how this bat went for adaptation and why adaptation? As you all know, bamboo stick which are very smooth and very shining surface that is present, right? So whenever any animal it want to hold it, we cannot hold it because it is very smooth. So because of this, mainly to attach that to that bamboo stick, so they came up with this sticky pad. Okay, so this is very important thing. So clinging to this smooth surface such as bamboo internodes, it is very high, very hard and very difficult. So because of this bats, they came with adaptation, like they are having now sticky pads. Okay, and next one is they are found to be genetically very different from all other known bats. Okay, and because of this now we are going to add another genus to this bats here. Okay, so this is about this article. And now let us talk about next article. Title says 162 oxygen plant sanctions. So this article mainly talking about this oxygen plants. So why this oxygen plant is very important in present situation? So because of rising of this COVID-19 cases, and there are about more than 2.7 lakh cases they are recorded within 24 hours. So because of this, in this proportion, or in this 22.7 lakh people, so there may be also vulnerable people they are present, right? So vulnerable people includes people who are suffering with other comorbidities, for example heart disease, respiratory disorders, and as well as some lung disorders, liver diseases, kidney disease, etc. So in those immunocompromised patients, they need oxygen supply for sure. And there are many reports and there are many news articles in today's newspaper. It mainly says that there are a number of states they are facing this oxygen shortage. So because of this oxygen shortage, there is increase in deaths regarding this COVID-19 that are evident. Okay, so because of this now the government came up with this decision, that is 162 oxygen plants they sanction. Okay, so this article, it is again important regarding health, which comes under GS paper 3. So now let us talk about this article in a great detail. So if you are talking about this oxygen plants here, so first let us see context. So Union Health Minister said the government had sanctioned 162 pressure swing adsorption plant. Okay, so now government said that it had sanctioned about 162 pressure swing adsorption plants here. So these plants will be helpful to meet demand of oxygen in hospitals. Okay, because there is lack of oxygen supply that is seen in number of hospitals. So because of this, out of this 162, 33 plants have been installed. So 5 installed in state of Madhya Pradesh, 4 in Himachal Pradesh, 3 in Chandigarh, Gujarat, and as well as Uttarakhand, and 2 in Bihar, Telangana, and Karnataka, and 1 in each in Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, Haryana, Kerala, Maharashtra, Puducherry, Punjab, and UP. So there are 33 plants have been installed now. So if you see here, states had requested for 100 more plants, they are being sanctioned. And if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that our minister said that oxygen production being diverted from industrial use to mechanical use. And there are also additional ventilators, they are being provided to hospitals which are facing some shortage of these ventilators. So what is need of her now? How can we decrease this COVID-19 deaths? Okay, so we need to prioritize some we need to go some prioritize, and as well as we need to systemize all combined effort regarding management of this COVID-19. We need to go for effective management, and we need to ensure availability of sufficient healthcare infrastructure in states, and as well as we need to go for increased demand for treatment, that is we need to go for compulsory licensing even from remdesivir, and there are a number of drugs that are found effective to treat this coronavirus, right? So we need to go for increased production of those drugs also. So this is need of her. And now let us talk about next article. Title says US China agree to cooperate with urgency on climate crisis. So this article mainly talking about US and China regarding this climate crisis. So this article will be important regarding international relations, which comes under GS paper 2, and as well as this is important regarding GS paper 3 under environment and ecology. So now let us talk about this topic in a great detail. So if you're talking about this topic, it is mainly talking about US China on climate crisis. So this article will be very important regarding environment point of view, because recently this net zero, it is very much highly present in news, right? So because of this you need to focus on this article. So if you see context, it mainly says that US and China, they are the world's 2 biggest carbon polluters, and this US and China, they agreed to cooperate to curb climate change with urgency. Mainly we want to curb this climate change with urgency. Okay, so this is context. And if you see here details, it mainly says that this agreement was reached by US Special Envoy for Climate and as well as Chinese counterpart during 2 days of talks in Shanghai. So during 2 days of talks in Shanghai here, so this agreement mainly reached by US Special Envoy and as well as Chinese counterparts. So on both the sides, that is two countries, they committed to cooperate with each other mainly to tackle this climate crisis. So if you see some data here, China, it is one of world's largest emitter, which is mainly followed by US. Okay, so these two countries mainly pump nearly half of fossil fuel fumes into atmosphere. So because of increase in carbon emission, it will lead to global warming. That means we can say there will be increase in temperature of planet's atmosphere. So what will be significance of this step? So whenever this type of steps which are taken by governments to control these emissions, then this cooperation between these two countries, those are world's largest pollution emitters. So it is one of key success of global efforts to curb this climate change. Okay, so this is gist of this topic. And now let us see next topic. Title says Saudi Iranian officials hold talks to reset relations report. So this article mainly talking about Saudi and Iran relations. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under international relations. And this topic will be important regarding mains point of view, not from prelims. So from prelims you can expect question like which are countries which is sharing boundary with Iran or sharing boundary with Saudi Arabia or GCC members. So in this way you can expect some map based questions regarding this topic from your prelims. Okay, so now let us try to see this topic in a great detail. So this article mainly talking about Saudi-Iran relations. So if you see context, it mainly says that Saudi and Iranian officials, they held direct talks. So in this direct talks, they talked to bid ease tensions between these two forces, that is two enemies, that is Saudi and Iran here. So why there is an enemy, why these two countries are against each other? So if you're talking about Muslim world, in Muslims we can divide this Muslims into two sects. First one is Shia Muslim, second one is Sunni. So this Saudi Arabia, it is leader of Sunni countries and Iran will be dominating this Shia. Okay, so because of this Shia and Sunni, there is some conflict that is happening between this Saudi Arabia and as well as Iran. Okay, so why this talks which had been made by Saudi and Iranian officials? So mainly they want to revive. Recently USA said that it is going back to this Iran's nuclear deal, right? So because of this, to revive this 2015 Iran nuclear pact with Tehran and as well as to end this Yemen's war. So recently talks held between Saudi and Iran. So if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that meeting mainly focused on Yemen. Okay, military coalition mainly led by Saudi Arabia has been battling this Iran-aligned Houthi group since 2015. So if you are talking in Yemen, so in Yemen there is increased presence of Iran here. So Iran mainly supporting this Shia Shia militant group, that is Houthi, since 2015, and we want to end this Yemen war. And next one, if you are talking about this Lebanon, in Lebanon also it is mainly facing some political vacuum, because Gulf Arab states, they are alarmed by expanding role of Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah movement. So in Lebanon also these are Hezbollah group, they are supported by Iran. Okay, so mainly we want to end this Lebanon and as well as Yemen crisis. So now if you are talking about history between the Saudi and as well as Iranian conflict, so Saudi mainly leader of Sunni Gulf power and Iran is mainly Shiites. Okay, it is mainly dominating Shiites. Okay, so because of this, they cut ties in January 2016 onwards. So if you're talking about outcome of recent meeting, so there is not seen any much development regarding this meeting. So now let us talk about this map here. So if you're talking about map, here we have Iran and here we have Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia mainly having some issues regarding Yemen and as well as here Lebanon, right? So in Lebanon also there is increased presence of Iran here. Here we have Hezbollah group and Yemen we have Houthis. Mainly Saudi Arabia want to end this conflict here. Okay, so this is map. And now let us talk about next article. title says normal is good. So this article mainly talking about IMD recent forecast, that is India Meteorological Department. So this topic will be very important regarding GS paper 1 under geography. And now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So if you see background, we already discussed about this background. So recently IMD came up with the forecast of monsoon, and it said that it will be normal this year. So normal means we can expect to get 96 to 104 percentage of LPA, that is long period average. So this long period average will be 88 centimeters. That means we can get this 96 to 104 percentage of 88 centimeters of rainfall in this year monsoon. Okay, so this is about prediction of forecast. And if you are talking about IMD, it will give data in 2 times. So this 2 times data which is mainly given based on upgradation of technology. Okay, so why this monsoon forecast is important? So earlier this monsoon forecast mainly used by agriculturists, mainly when they want to go for sowing, if we will get good monsoon rainfall or not. So if we are getting good monsoon rainfall, then we can go for water intensive crops. If at all there is fail of monsoon, then we can go for less water intensive crops like millet, so and so, right? So this will be helpful for mainly farmers. But if you see now, this IMD forecast, it is not only important for agriculturists but also even for urban people, urban area people, because of this monsoons now, because of poor drainage system which is present in urban areas. So if at all there is any normal rain is happening, that will lead to clogging of drainages and as well as clogging of roads, and also there is increasing flood like situations that are seen in urban areas. Recently even Hyderabad also seen flash floods, and every year Mumbai will face flash floods, right? So because of this, whenever monsoon forecast which is given by IMD, such that we can also go for disaster preparedness regarding these urban areas and how to deal with those flash floods, etc. Okay, so in this way, this article mainly says that IMD need to also focus to give some support to business and as well as service sectors. Okay, so this is just, and now let us see in detail what is written in this article. So if you see context, it mainly says that IMD came up with recent forecast. It mainly said that we are going to have normal monsoon this year. So it implies mainly we can expect 96 to 104 percentage of 88 centimeters of rainfall. It is called as long period average. So what is meaning of long period average? Long period average, it is mainly refers to mean of monsoon rainfall from 1961 to 2010. So between 1961 to 2010, so we can see long period average is 88, okay, 88 centimeters. And recently our IMD came up with monsoon forecast. Okay, so if you are talking about this forecast system, it mainly runs on 2 stages. First stage, it will provide some data regarding onset of this monsoon, that is in prognosis of April. So it will give some updated estimates of, okay, in late May and as well as early June. So in this estimate, it will give how much likely rainfall that will be received in northeast area, northwest area, central India and as well as southern peninsula. So it will be estimate like how much rainfall we can receive in so and so areas. And second stage, we are having data in month of July and as well as August. It mainly estimates about 2/3 of monsoon rains, and the most important, and these are most important months of sowing. So whatever data which is given in this months of July and August, that will be very much important for farmers. And next one is, if whenever we are going for predicting of rainfall in this July and August, so this is one of most important challenging for IMD. So because here whenever we are comparing with entry and as well as exit of monsoon, so when you want to predict this second stage data, that will be very complicated, and it is also very challenging for IMD. And also in this predictions of monsoon, even IMD will also come up with one important thing, that is monsoon code zone. So this monsoon code zone mainly represents most of rainfed agriculture region in our country. That means in which area it will receive highest rainfall. And next one is, all of these updates, they are mainly because of increase in reliance on dynamic monsoon models. So these dynamic monsoon models that will generate forecasts these are mainly based on evolving weather patterns across world. Okay, and the normal monsoon forecast is mainly predicted based on some neutral surface temperature in central equatorial Pacific now. So based on some neutral surface temperature which is present in this central equatorial Pacific, now IMD came up with this forecast. Okay, but if you're talking about earlier forecast in year 2019 and as well as year 2020, so IMD forecast that there will be normal monsoons. But now finally in 2019 and as well as 2020, it mainly ended up with 110 percentage and as well as 109 percentage of long period average here. So it is very high than compared to that of whatever that is estimated. Okay, so in this way this forecast they are very much critical, mainly in aspect of Indian disaster preparedness. So we need to focus more on incorporating forecast down to municipal and as well as block level planning. So here earlier this monsoon forecast it is mainly used for agricultural people, but now this forecast it is very useful for even for disaster preparedness, especially in urban areas, because of Chennai flash floods, because of Kerala floods, and because of even Hyderabad's flash floods, and every year we can see flash floods in Mumbai. So for all these cases we are experiencing, we need to prepare well, okay, before onset of monsoons based on this forecast. Okay, so because of this forecast it is now getting very much interested and very much important for urban people. Okay, so in this way several business and as well as service centers, service sectors, industries, they need to go for this weather products in terms of science and as well as infrastructure. So for this our IMD need to give some help, need to give some aid or support for all these fronts. Okay, so this is gist of this topic. And now let us see next topic. So before saying this topic, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. So if you want to attempt UPSC in 2022, we came up with one important, highly beneficial and also highly economical course, that is current affairs package along with mains answer writing practice. So how this course is useful? So before entering into exam, you need to know at least 1.5 years current affairs for sure, right? So, and this is right time to join this course to cover 1.5 years current affairs in a comprehensive manner. So why we need to focus on current affairs? About 50 to 60% of questions, either it may be prelims or mains or interview, you can expect questions from this current affairs. Okay, so because of this, mastering of current affairs is very important to clear UPSC. And if you're talking about this mains answer writing practice, many freshers or especially beginners, they ignore this mains answer writing practice. So because of this, finally if you even clear prelims, you cannot clear mains without proper answer writing skills. So in this course we are focusing on exactly how to improve our answer writing skills. Okay, and next important thing is, if you join this course, we also conduct prelims test on every Sunday. We also provide you video solutions. So in this way this course is exactly focusing on demand of UPSC. So one thing I want to say for sure, please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. So if you want to talk to me regarding this course, you can talk to me on this number 8074765513. So if you have any queries regarding this course, you can talk to me on this number. And for further details, please go and watch about some details given in description box. So now let us come back and let us see next article. Title says implementing green contracts. So this article mainly talking about green contract, and this article will be very much important regarding environment in ecology, which comes under GS paper 3. And I will try my level best to make you understand what is this green contracts. Okay, so now let us see this topic in a very great detail. So this article mainly talking about green contracts. So what is context? So now there is increased concerns of climate change all over the world, right? So in this context, mainly to control this climate change, we need to focus on enhanced efforts towards achieving our sustainable growth goals in India. So we need to focus on how to achieve this sustainable growth goals in India. So in this way, whenever we want to go for growth, here we are setting up many industries, many factories. Finally, we are increasing our manufacturing, right? So we are going for massive levels of production, massive levels of consumption, and as well as disposal of goods and services. So because of massive level of production, consumption, as well as disposal, so these benefits, they are mainly got for post-industrial societies, and even we are mainly slowing down on replenishment of cycle of limited resources. So whenever we want to go for more production, we need to exploit more resources, and we are going for increased production, right? So one hand, some post-industrial societies, they are getting benefits. On second side, we are mainly ignoring about this cycle of limited resources. So in this context, both consumers and as well as corporators, they need to reap the benefits of large scale manufacturing and as well as services. Okay, so in this way, here both, that is consumers and as well as corporators, okay, corporations and as well as consumers, they have equal share of responsibility regarding loss of revenues or loss of resources, and also to reduce greenhouse gases emission. Okay, so in this way, what is solution? So solution here is we can come with this contract, that is green contracting. So now let us try to understand what is this green contract. So I hope you understand why we need to go for a green contract. So whenever we are increasing our production, whenever you are going for distribution and as well as disposal, so here the role which is played by both consumers and as well as both producers. So in this way here, these two people, consumers and as well as producers, they have equal responsibility mainly to control climate change. So in this context, we can come up with this green contracting. So what is meaning of this green contract? So green contract refers to commercial contracts which mandate that contracting parties, they need to cut down this greenhouse gases emission at different stages. Okay, so whenever there is any contract which is made, so this mainly mandates this contracting parties to cut down this greenhouse gas emissions at delivery of goods and services, and as well as including designs, manufacturing, even transportation, operators, and as well as we can talk about waste disposal. So in all these things, we need to focus on how to decrease this greenhouse gas emissions, right? So the process of implementing of the green contract, that may commence even at bidding stage also. Okay, so whenever we are going for bidding, interested companies, they can participate in this tender process. So these tenders regarding this green contract are called as green tenders, and these green tenders, they will mainly prescribe some necessary green qualifications that need to be met here. So they can be ranged from predefined percentage of green energy in service delivery till or to adequate on-site management, and as well as how to reduce this carbon emissions by certain level over a period of time. So all these green qualifications that were present in this green tender. Okay, so once bidder is chosen here, so after signing of this contracting agreement between parties, and this agreement that will prescribe some green obligations. So whatever obligations that are present in this agreement, they are binding and they are also enforceable in eyes of law. Okay, and these obligations that can be achieved mainly by providing some use of good quality, and as well as using some energy efficient infrastructure, technology for production of goods and services, etc. And we need to decrease noise pollution, air pollution, and also water pollution, and we need to also ensure some eco-friendly means of transportation. So whenever we are going for delivery of goods and services, we can use bicycles rather than using bikes which are releasing some greenhouse emission gases, right? And next one is we need to establish and as well as we need to maintain a sustainable waste management system also. And next one is for measurement criteria, and as well as whether these obligations are met or not, we can go for audits. Okay, so auditors will check the performance of contractor. So whenever this performance it is not achieved, so as we all know, this green contracts, they will be enforceable under law. So that will also contain some penalty for prescriptions or penalty prescriptions if there is any violation or non-performance. Okay, so this is just of this topic. I hope it is clear. And now let us talk about important topic of day, that is the ECI cannot be super government. So what is important regarding ECI, that is Election Commission of India, we are going to discuss in this lecture. So if you are opening your Lakshmika, there is one complete chapter regarding this Election Commission of India. So we are going to discuss what is this Election Commission of India. So what is about the structure of this, and as well as what are functions, what are challenges, everything we are going to discuss now. So this topic will be important regarding GS paper 2 under polity. Okay, so now let's see the discussion of this topic. So this Election Commission of India, it is an autonomous constitutional authority which is present in our India, and this Election Commission of India, which is mainly responsible to conduct free and fair elections, okay, in India for union and as well as state. Okay, it will administer mainly elections of Lok Sabha, elections of Rajya Sabha, and as well as state legislative assembly, and also for offices of president and as well as vice president. So this part will be important for prelims. And if you're talking about background of this Election Commission of India, so mainly in our constitution, part 15 of our Indian constitution talks about this Election Commission, and this part 15 mainly deals with election, and as well as it also talks to establish a commission for these matters, that is for election matters. And if you're talking about some constitutional provisions, from Article 324 to Article 329, it mainly talks about powers, functions, tenure, eligibility of this Election Commission of India. So if you're talking about structure, originally in our constitution, okay, we have only one election commissioner, but we came up with amendment in year 1989, and it was made as a multi-member body. So it includes Chief Commissioner of India, that is one CEC, and two EC, that is election commissioners are present here. Okay, and if you're talking about appointment, so this Central Election Commissioner and as well as Election Commissioner, they will be appointed by our President of India. And tenure, it is a fixed tenure for 6 years or up to age of 65 years, whichever is earlier, so that will be tenure. Okay, so the person who is appointed as CEC or EC, he will enjoy some same status, and he will receive salary and as well as parks which are available to Supreme Court Judge of India. And removal can be done on grounds of proven misbehavior and as well as incapacity. And this removal mainly requires special majority, that means 2/3 of president voting, they need to be supported, and this motion should be supported by more than 50% of total strength of house. So if you're talking about our constitution, so removal of this CEC or EC, it is not called as impeachment. So impeachment word will be used only for removal of president. So this is one important point that you should remember here. And if you're talking about functions, so first and foremost here it is superintendence. It will direct and also it will control the entire process of conducting of elections of parliament and as well as legislature of every state, and also even for offices of president and as well as vice president. And next one is this election commission that will decide mainly election schedule to conduct the periodic timely elections for both general and as well as even for by-elections. And this election commission mainly prepares electoral rolls, and it is responsible to issue electronic photo identity cards here, that is voter IDs. And next one is it will also decide the location of polling stations, and it will assign voters to particular polling station. And next one is location of counting centers will also be decided by this Election Commission of India. And next one is here, it will also provide model code of conduct in election for political parties, and also set some limit of campaign expenditure. That means so and so political party should not exceed the limit of expenditure so and so. And it is also monitors these political parties. So this is about functions. And now let us talk about what is importance of this institution. So first one is it will conduct elections with high standard of credibility, accountability, transparency, freeness, and as well as fairly, and as well as it will have some autonomy and as well as professionalism. So it will be conducting elections with all these important features. And second one is it will be also ensuring participation of all, and will be also eligible. It will also include some eligible citizens in electoral process. They will be included here. So it mainly ensures the participation of all citizens who having the right to vote. Mainly it will go for some inclusive voter centric, and as well as it will go for some voter friendly environment. And next one is it will be also engaged with political parties and also all stakeholders in interest of electoral process. And next one is this election commission is also responsible to create awareness about electoral process and as well as electoral governments, mainly to different stakeholders who are involved. For example, we can talk about voters, we can talk about political parties, and as well as election functionaries, candidates, and as well as even people. Finally, when we are providing some awareness, it will include or it will increase our, it will enhance and also it will strengthen our confidence and trust. And if you're talking about challenges which are facing by this election commission, so first and foremost challenge, you and me, everyone knows, that is money and as well as criminal elements in politics. So whenever the elections are seen, there will be increased violence that is seen, and also because of money power, there will be also some electoral malpractices that are evident, right? So because of this, finally it will leads to criminalization of politics. And first one is, there is also some rampant abuse of power by state governments. So state governments before elections, they will try to increase large scale transfer on eve of elections. And next one is, Election Commission of India not adequately equipped to regulate these political parties, because Election Commission of India do not have any power in enforcing some inner party democracy and as well as regulating this party finances, etc. And one important major institutional drawback is there is non-transparency of election of CEC and as well as EC. So recently our chief election commissioner was appointed, okay. So let me know name of that person in comment box. And next one is, there is also allegations on EVMs, that is voting machines regarding malfunctioning sometimes, and as well as they are getting hacked and as well as not registering votes. So because of all these allegations, it mainly decreases or it mainly corrodes general mass trust from this institution. So these are some important challenges of facing by this Election Commission of India. So these are some important things that you should remember regarding this article. And now let us see the main question today. Discuss the powers and limitations of Election Commission of India in conducting free and fair elections. So in introduction, you can write about what is this Election Commission of India and some constitutional provisions. So here this question mainly demanding about powers and as well as limitations. So first part, you need to write about powers of Election Commission of India, and second one is you need to write about limitations or drawbacks. Okay, finally you can come up with conclusion, and this answer should be written within 250 words. Okay, try to write answer within word limits. So many students, they are crossing their word limits. Okay, so please focus on word limits also. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll this current affairs package. Thank you so much.